Okay, in this section, what we're going to do is we're going to test our product. We're going to see if we have any errors that we need to fix ahead of time, and I'm sure we do. And then we're going to test to make sure that all of our validation works. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to go ahead and save these to my folder in my XAMPP folder. So go to your C drive. You should have a folder there named XAMPP. Inside that is a folder named htdocs, and I'm going to go ahead and save that here. You can continue working in a different folder if you want to, but just remember every time you make a change to that document, you need to copy it over into your htdocs folder again to test it each time you make a change to it. So I'm going to go ahead and just work directly in this folder. So I'm going to go ahead and save that here. And I'm also going to do the same thing with Schultz Cart. I'm going to do File, Save As, make sure it's in my htdocs folder. It is. And then before I do anything else, I'm going to make sure that my web server is running. So I brought up my XAMPP control panel, and my Apache seems to have some green action going, so that's good news. So then I'm going to go ahead and bring up my browser, and I'm going to go to localhost, and I'm going to bring up schultzcart.php, and that'll bring up our form, so we can go ahead and fill it in. I'm going to go ahead and use some pre-filled information. I'm going to use the fuzzy bunny. I'm going to order 3 fuzzy bunnies, which happen to cost $12.95. So I filled in the information. Now what's going to happen behind the scenes, remember, is the post method is going to take over. It's going to send it to our second PHP, and hopefully all of this data will be grabbed out of these fields and filtered on through our program. So let's click submit. And it says that we have a parse error. So let's kind of work through some of these errors together. It has a syntax error, which means I've probably made a typo somewhere. It tells me that I'm looking for a comma that seems to be out of place, and it tells me that it's on line 7. So I'm going to go back and bring up our program. I'm going to go to the process order, which is where it's happening. And I'm going to look at line 7. And sure enough, notice I have, it's not really the comma that's causing the problem. It is actually this extra parentheses that I used to close that. And so it was just, it hit the comma and had the problem. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. I'm going to go back to my file. I'm going to hit my back button. I'm going to submit the same data, and surprisingly, we have no errors. So it fills in the full name, it fills in today's date, and fills in the rest of the information. Notice that the dollar signs are there with the 2 decimal places. You probably want to check the math at this time. You can go back and you can say something that's maybe a little bit easier to check math-wise. 1 fuzzy bunny at $10, and it shows you that you're going to charge 83 cents. Because that is under $10 or under $25, we're going to pay $8 in shipping, and our total due would be 18. So let's check our shipping to make sure that we have those set up. So let's get 4 fuzzy bunnies at $10 a piece. That actually triggered our change in shipping. And then our last option, excuse me, let's get 6 fuzzy bunnies at $10, which gives us our free shipping option. So that tests the logic of our calculations to make sure everything was correct. Let's go back though and break the rules on how we're supposed to fill in some of these forms. So I'm going to not fill in my first name, and I'm going to submit. And unfortunately, it looks like something happened. We came back to this, which is good, but we didn't get an error message. Unfortunately, we have a logic error here. We didn't have a syntax error that was a missing comma or something. So we're going to have to go into our code and actually really look at what we're doing and try to figure out what the problem is. Let's test them all. Quantity, remember that had to be an integer, so let's say we're going to buy 1.5 bennies and fill all that stuff in. That's not checked, but let's go ahead and put a correct value here. All right, looks like we have some logic problems. So I'm going to go ahead and bring our notepad back up. I'm going to go over into our cart and take a look to see if I can see what might be going on. If not empty, then error message. Close. We set our style up. Oops, missing some double quotes here on my style tag. Let's see if that changes it. I'm not sure that would be what would cause the error, but let's go ahead and reload our cart. First name must be completed. So there's our error message. So let's fill in our error. Let's fill in our product. Let's put in that we want 1.5 bunnies, which should cause an error because this has to be an integer. And we're going to pay $12.88 for each of those. We submit. It comes back here. Quantity must be an integer. So we start again. We tell it, oops, let's just go ahead and stick with fuzzy bunnies. We tell it we want 3 fuzzy bunnies and we want to pay $10 even, and it allows us to go on. Okay, so that right there is just a quick trip through how you're going to work with the server to debug. You just need to remember that anytime that you make a change here in Notepad, that if you're you need to either be copying it directly into the htdocs folder in your XAMPP folder, or if you have it in another folder, after every change you make, you need to be sure and copy that into the active htdocs directory so you can look at it on your browser. So that right there is pretty much a straightforward look at Lab 1. Like I said before, subsequent labs we will be doing less of a step-by-step approach, and I'll just be showing you some interesting tidbits. So get started on your lab if you haven't already. Send me questions. If your code's not working, send it to me in Blackboard and let me take a look. Give yourself plenty of time to do this before the due date.